boring. What it is, but if you've got a student in your class who's really struggling with the present perfect, then you could assign that student this kind of extra homework, that they have to do, just to keep them moving, keeping up with the class. You'll always find in a class of teenagers, you've got mixed ability, You've got teenagers that take to English, no problem, and you've got teenagers that find it very difficult. You've also got some teenagers that are naturally very good at speaking, very fluent, but have no accuracy, no grammar knowledge. And then you've got the opposite, the ones that are very good at filling in the exam questions, but they don't speak, they're not fluent. And the problem often is that teenagers want to be accurate when they speak, so they don't speak, because they're scared of not being accurate. So it's all about encouraging them to make mistakes. Okay, more vocabulary. Again, you've got things like the vocabulary builder for the practice for students and no problem. This is for mixed ability class, so you can give extra materials to the students who are struggling. And finally, more skills practice. So in the language review and the skills roundup, we've got a lot more different skills, whether it's reading, speaking, listening or writing. And you've also got something called functions aid. Functional English is one of the most important ways of teaching English. Functional language means that we're teaching our students to do things in certain contexts. So for example, functional language is like language of giving advice, the language of explaining, language of apologising. And within that, you need certain grammar functions to do it, and you need the vocabulary. But the function means that there is a clear purpose. I want to be able to order food in a restaurant. This is what you need. This is how you do it. So that's very functional. You've got a function thing to help you with that. All of this is kind of language as well that sometimes we forget. Turn taking. These little expressions that help conversations flow. So do I. Really? That's interesting. All of that's very, very important. Okay, now, planning a lesson. Do all of you have to plan your own lessons? Great, okay. So you're not just given a lesson you have to follow, It's good. Okay, much better. All right. Lesson planning. I know this is kind of review for a lot of you, but I'm just going to say it quickly because it's always good to refresh our knowledge. But basically, the solution very much works to a traditional lesson planning context, which is always start with your aims. Always start with your aims. What do we want to achieve in this class? And they could be linguistic aims, so language aims. I want students to become more aware of and practice past perfect. Okay? But they can also be skills aims. I want students to become better at listening for specific information. Or reading for general understanding. Or fluency practice, for example, or speaking. So we'll always start with our aims, It's very, very clear. And you'll see if you use the teacher's book to help you plan your lesson, the teacher's book actually outlines the aims. So it's easy. You don't even need to think about it. Generally, these days we're much more in trying to bring together the language and the skills. Now, this can be a little bit of a problem if in your school you separate the foreigners just each speaking, because then you're separating the skills and the language already. But even if you're just teaching speaking, there will always be certain vocabulary that you're focusing on, or they'll be using certain grammar to do certain things, so you can't separate it. And when you're teaching grammar, well, if you're speaking English, then they're naturally using listening skills. So again, you're bringing listening into the class as well. Work backwards. In other words, start your aims, and then go back and decide what you actually want them to achieve and how we're going to do it. Too often we work towards. I'll explain it in a minute. But basically, we need to choose extra activities that meet the aims, not extra activities that fill 10 minutes. Which we've all done, me included. But the idea is, does this extra activity, and it's fun and it's great and I love it, but does it meet the aims? That's what it's all about. Yeah? And all of this is in the teacher's book, in every single, whenever you open the page, it will have extra ideas and extra activities that meet the aims. And the aims are at the top of the page. Alright. Solutions is a structural syllabus. Structural syllabus means it's got a strong foundation of grammar and vocabulary, and then the skills are layered on that. So, it's based around a methodology called PPP. Does anyone know what PPP stands for? Does anyone know the first P? Yes, hearing it. In other words, and this will be the same for foreign teachers or Vietnamese teachers, present language, because we need to give it to them. Practice it, and we're talking here about controlled practice, gap buildings, etc. And then produce the language, tasks, lovely tasks at the end. Produce it. This forms the basis of training a lesson. And we need to think about how much time, what percentage of the lesson we spend on each one. Presentation. How much, what percentage do you spend in your class time on presentation? 100%? No. How much do you reckon? Take a guess? Alright, we've got nearly 50% here. Anyone higher? More than 50%? Less than 50%?
Maybe 30%, yeah.
30%?
Yeah.
Okay. 50. I've got 13. Anyone else? Alright, I'm going to show you. 10 to 15%. Teachers spend too long presenting language. Remember, presenting language should be quick. Practicing and using language is where we need to spend our time. Teachers spend too long at the board going, and this is what this is, and this is the past participle, and this is how you form the present perfect. We spend too long. Students can see it very quickly, but then they need to practice it. We learn nothing really from presentation. We learn what we can keep in our short-term memory, but then it's gone. Practicing it and using it makes language go into our long-term memory, and then we remember it. Yeah? So basically, 10 to 15% should be presentation. 50% approximately. This is approximate, but generally 50%. production practice. But the most important thing we can do is give them production, 40% production. Now, too often, what happens in a class, and I am totally guilty of this as well, I spend a long time presenting it because I'm worried that my students won't understand it. Present. Then I go, practice it, control practice, practice. And then I go, well, you have 3 minutes to use it. Practice with your partner. And actually, we're forgetting that the aim of the lesson is always to use language. Aim is always met in the production. But to get to the production, we need the presentation and the practice. Yeah? So the presentation and the practice are really only there to help us get our students producing the language, whether they're writing it or speaking it or understanding how to read it. Yeah? So production is absolutely what it's all about. This is why if we work backwards, we can get this better. If I work backwards, I will make my aim. For example, my aim is vocabulary to do with holidays. Okay? Lots of vocabulary to do with holidays and some speaking, fluency in speaking about holidays. Alright. That's my aim. So to prove my aim, to meet my aim, what do I want to do? I want to get my students speaking comfortably in a small group about their last holiday. Alright? Okay, what task do I need to do to get them doing that? Alright. What I'm going to do, because I know that if I just say to my students, in groups of 4, talk about your last holiday, they'll do this. Hanoi. Finish teacher. Because teenagers will naturally use as few words as possible. Yeah. You can never ever just say to teenagers talk. They won't do it. Completely. They won't do it in their first language. We always need to give them a reason, yeah? So, any production activity, you have to do something like this. Okay, you're going to be in groups of 4, and you're going to talk about your last holiday, and you need to find 3 things that you all did the same, something similar. For example, you all went to the beach, or you all went to the mountains, or you all stayed in Vietnam, or you all went overseas. And I want 3 things that are completely different. Yeah? So they are forcing them, they must speak, they must do the task to get to the conclusion. Yeah? Anything we can do like that, it doesn't require a worksheet, it doesn't require me making complicated things. It's just a little activity, but I'm giving them a reason to do it. Alright, that's the production, that's one. If they can talk together, talk about the last holiday, find 3 similarities, 3 differences, then I'm going around, I'm listening, I'm monitoring, and I think, yeah, they've done well. Then I've met my aims. So, how long do I need for that? I reckon I need about, what hour class? 30 minutes, sorry. I reckon I need about 10 to 15 minutes to get that done properly and to get some feedback. So I'd like to ask the class, how many people went overseas, how many people stayed in Vietnam. 10 to 15 minutes for that. Okay. Then I need to go back. What do they need to do to give them the skills to be able to talk to each other about that and use that vocabulary? Okay. They need some practice with some vocabulary about holidays. And usually, this is where the course book is brilliant. Because I am too busy and I can't be bothered to make lots of gap-filled worksheets, using the vocabulary. Yeah? So in the course book, they've got all the practice activities, fill in the missing word, choose the right word. Yeah? And that's going to be about, how long would that be? Maybe that would be about 15 to 20 minutes. Yeah? But in order to do that, to be able to fill in the missing word, they need to know what those words mean. So I need to give them the meaning. So I'm going right back to the start, where I need to give them the meaning of the words. And this is where I will probably just spend about 5 minutes in a 30-minute class. 5 minutes. I've got 8, 9 words, because remember, you can't teach in a 30-minute class no more than 8 words, really. You put them on the board, and listen, get what you can, check. We'll go through this in a minute, how we do that. And bang. Very quick. Now we use it. Yeah. Often at the beginning of the course book, they'll often show different ways of presenting language. Showing pictures, describing it, using examples. There's lots of different ways. Okay, but sometimes you want to make it a bit different. Sometimes I like to draw pictures on the board and try and get them to guess what it is. And my pictures are terrible, so it often takes a while to get that one. Okay, so at the presentation stage, right, if I'm presenting 8 words about holidays, camping, accommodation, beach, yeah, these sorts of words, then the first thing you do, generally, is you try to listen to them, because your students always know more or different things than you expect. If I'm introducing 8 words about holidays, I cannot assume that no one in my class knows them. Someone might know something, because our passive knowledge is quite big. And students love to be right and to be able to tell you. You know. So if you say something like, when you go camping, you draw camping, and you stay in this thing that's like another little house, but it's temporary. What's it called? Yeah, it's a tent. Great. And you might find just one person in your class knows that it's a tent. Maybe you know what it is, but you just do it very quick. If no one knows it, no worries. And they write, it's a tent. Yeah? So this is what presenting language is all about. And the course book does that a lot as well. But we also need to model it. You can't just write the word tent and go, it's a tent. It's a tent. We must give them a good model to listen to. It's a tent. It's a tent. Again, it goes down. We must model the language. Drilling the language goes back a little bit to traditional ideas, but drilling is becoming very popular again, because at the end of the day, if we drill it, we're pronouncing it. If we are confident in the way we're pronouncing it, we're going to be confident in using it. If I don't feel confident in pronouncing a word, I don't use it. We need to correct it if they're not doing it properly. 10. So for example, in Thailand, I work a lot in Thailand, and if I teach the word tent, do you know what my students do? Tent. 10, because they don't pronounce the final hard syllable, yeah? Or those rough consonant clusters. So you'll always get 10. And I always have to say to the time, no, tent. And I correct it right there. Because I don't want them going around thinking 10 is okay. Because 10 is a number. They're going to be very misunderstood if they get that wrong. So getting correction. And of course, finally, concept checks. This is what we forget to do. Concept check means we check they understand it. Too often we teach and we think, I taught you the word tent. I'm a fantastic teacher. I drew it and it's a great picture. Therefore, you understand. But sometimes some of your students don't understand. And if they don't understand, then everything you do in the lesson will be wrong. Because in their head it's something else. Yeah? So you just have to do it very quick though. Concept check is, okay, a tent. Do you live in a tent now? Do you live in a tent? Anyone? No, okay. A tent, is it big visually? Is it very big or quite small? Okay, great. Have you ever stayed in a tent? Comfortable? Yes? Yes. Okay. Is it very comfortable? Not so much, no? Do you stay in a tent in the middle of the city? No, where do you stay in a tent usually? Yeah, okay, quick, yeah? Just getting it. But if I'm getting the wrong answers, then I know my explanation was pretty terrible and I need to redo it and check. Okay, so these are the very, very important parts of how we do it. Here's an example from solutions, right? Often we'll present language visually. A lot in the course book is nice and easy, it's very memorable. Bang. Show the pictures, show the words, they match them. It sounds like, oh my goodness, it's just another boring activity. It is, but actually this uses the elicit model because you're eliciting what they already know. Some of them will know things like shark. A lot of students will know shark, snake. These are the boys. The boys always know shark, snake, lion. But they may not know eagle. They may not know jellyfish. But that's okay. If they get just 3 or 4 of them correct, and we do that very quickly, and then we show them, okay, this is jellyfish. Has anyone ever seen a jellyfish at the beach? And they can sting. And we explain very, very quickly and we move on. Some of the other ways that we can present language. Yeah? We present language in a course book because it's got pictures or matching activities. But we can also do things like miming. So for example, what's the best way to teach the word walk? Walk. Yeah, exactly. Really? Using a picture of the word walk? It's not great, is it? The best way we can do verbs and actions, etc. is to do it. I am walking. Walk. Yeah? Anything like that. Now that means you have to go away from the course book. But again, kind of the lesson